ready? First interview ever with the Sarah Jane. She's my favorite sister.
His only sister, so he has to say that.
Okay.
Wait, I need to finish eating this.
Yeah, eat it. That's good. Zoom in on her chewing. Play the noises too.
ASMR.
Okay, cool. Tell us, like, what do you do for work and what does a normal work week look like for you?
What do I do for work? Well, first off, I'm a barber. Second off, I'm a business owner. I own my barbershop. A normal work week for me is I'm barbering Tuesday through Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I run my shop 24/7. It feels like 36/27. It doesn't stop, and it's
Really?
a lot. It's a lot, but I love it.
It's like you go home and it's like still on your mind. That's what
100%.
you're saying. Yeah.
Everything I do, every second of every day is like thinking about that.
Okay, awesome. Obviously, a lot of us are like in our 20s watching. What was your like 20s journey like? And did you always know that you'd end up running like a barbershop?
So first and foremost, my first ever dream, and will be the dream for the rest of my life, is doing music. I'll never stop pursuing that. And that's what's been my why throughout my whole life. I feel like one of the things that I would want to teach and encourage people to think about is their why. Like, what is your why? And that can answer a lot of questions for what you do and how you do it. So music's always been my ultimate dream. I got to a point after graduating high school, I was in the middle of working at my dad's up-and-coming Monuments Boys Troubled Youth program, doing the horsemanship stuff with him. And I was working full-time, and with my working schedule, I was able to have one day, it was every Tuesday, that I spent doing music. I was in the studio at that time, writing and producing the EP that I eventually released in 2018. That was like literally where my path was, I thought leading me to. And literally right as those things were starting to, like, I was having to make decisions about them, I get a call from my dad in the morning before I was about to leave to go up and work. He's like, "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry to tell you, but I need to cut your hours." And I was like, by how much? He's like, "I can only pay you like 10 hours a week." And I was working a 40-hour work week.
Wow.
My life just kind of like turned up on its head in like a matter of a single phone call.
Funny how it can do that sometimes.
I know. But it's interesting because it can also turn in a different way in the matter of a single phone call.
Super true.
After I got off that phone call, I was like, what do I do now? Like, what job am I gonna get? I didn't want to do any of the jobs that like were flashing through my head as options, because they just seemed so meaningless.
What were some of those jobs?
As a waitress, work at Ulta, like I wanted to be doing some sort of job that was like aligned with some sort of passion of mine.
Rather than just like your normal go-to job.
Right.
Okay.
And I was like, these jobs are 1, meaningless, 2, get me nowhere, 3, I don't really garner any sort of skill set. And then I was like trying to project trying to think further down the line of like, okay, if I keep this pattern of getting these kind of jobs, how does that pay off, or where does that get me to further down the line? So it's like, okay, well then I need to have a skill. And I literally look out the window and there's an Evans hair school right there. And then literally I was just like, okay, that's my sign. I drove down to St. George the next day and signed up for hair school. I started hair school on August 15th of 2018. So it's almost been 7 years since I started.
That long? It doesn't even feel that long.
I know.
That is crazy.
I know.
Okay, so you're on this trajectory where you're working for your dad, you're able to do music for like one day out of the week, and you're really liking that and thinking like, okay, that's the future. You get a phone call from your dad saying he has to bump you down to 10 hours, and then you're kind of in panic mode where like, okay, what am I gonna do?
That idea popped into my head from seeing the school. Okay, what about this idea of going to hair school? Okay, think about that. It's a skill that I wouldn't hop around from job to job to job. I could take with me anywhere I needed to if music took me somewhere else.
True.
I'm always gonna have a job because everyone needs their haircut. That's like the answer to all that. That was answering every question that I had of what I needed to do next. I mentioned to my peers at the time, like, maybe I'll just be a barber. And they're like, no, don't just be a barber. Like, you'll limit yourself, and barbers don't make as much money as like hairstylists.
Right.
And I was like, they're right. I shouldn't make that hard of a decision right now. So after I graduated, I worked at a barbershop part-time and assisted at a salon. I was doing both, and it just still felt stronger to me, the barbering. And
can I pause you too?
Yeah.
Okay, one important thing that I noticed is that you weren't like, I'm just gonna do barbering, or I'm just gonna do being a stylist assistant, but you experimented with both. Like, could you expand and help like us understand why experimenting during this time is really important?
That's a great question. I feel like life it's so unpredictable, and if you're in a position to experience things, experience them, and as you let life happen, life will also eventually narrow your path down to where you need to be. Does that answer it? It's a little bit philosophical.
That's okay. We love philosophy. Kind of, let me rephrase maybe what you're saying, to like multiple pathways and taking the opportunity to like experience them both, then like naturally, kind of like with barbershop, like you're like, I'm drawn to this and I've done both of them. And I can feel more confident that I do like barbering because I have tried this other thing.
100%. That's really cool.
I paused you. I'm curious, did you always want to start a business as a barber?
No.
Okay, tell us about that.
So that's actually right where I was getting to in my story. As I was continuing barbering and getting busier and busier and busier, and my clients were like seeing how I worked, and the barbers that I was working with was seeing how I worked, and my family and friends and yada yada. Like, they saw how like seriously I was taking it and how well I was doing with it. They often asked, well, would you ever want to open your own barbershop? And without hesitation, no, absolutely not. I don't want to own my own barbershop. And I'd always ask why. And I'd be like, because I'm an independent contractor. So I already get to create my own schedule. I already like set my own prices. Like, I dictate a lot of the calls that happen within the realm of me being a barber within somebody else's shop. And that realm in which I had say over was all that I cared to have say over at the time. So what would be the purpose, especially if my goal is still music,
Right.
to add more to my plate in a realm that's walking down a different path than that path? And I thought if I walked farther down the barber path, that it would take me farther away from my music path.
You'd almost be like more locked into barbering than what you actually wanted to do.
Yeah, and so that was also like my hard stop no of why I didn't want to have a shop. Because I was like, the reason why I barbered is for music, and now barbering's taking over music. And I just didn't want that anymore.
Right.
Still sometimes blows my mind that I was so hard pressed against it, and now here I am owning the biggest barbershop in St. George.
Really? Wow.
And it's life is very interesting in the way that it teaches you things. And I was so happy at that barbershop. And then things just kind of started going a little bit south there, and it felt inevitable that I was going to need to leave eventually. And I was trying to find a new barbershop to work at. At the time, there was no barbershops that fit the standards that I have in like a working environment. And so then I was like, Kayla, I can just find a little like studio for myself. All the places in town that are specifically studio renting places is like astronomical, the amount of rent that is for like a single room for a single person working in there.
Right.
And so then I was trying to like open up my options to like maybe finding a studio in like a different type of building. And I actually found a couple of really cool options that I thought would pan out. And then my mom mentioned this little barber shop that's just down the road from here. There's a spot for another barber in there. And I was like, Mom, I've decided that I don't want to work in a barber shop, you know? And she's like, well, you never know, just go in there and talk to him. So I go in one day, we walk in, and I was just like, hey, I'm Sarah.
Networking.
Yeah. I was just like, hey, I'm Sarah Jane. I'm looking for a place to work at. He's like, oh, I'm not. He thought that I was like asking him to teach me. I was like, oh no, I'm already licensed. He's like, well, my shop's not busy enough to help you grow a clientele. And I was like, oh no, I already have a clientele. Well, I don't have I don't have anything here to like, and I don't have the money to set you up a station. Oh, I already have all that. And he's like, so what do you need? I was like, I just need a place to cut hair. So he's like, okay, give me your number. So I jotted down my number, and he had like sticky notes everywhere. I was like, handed him my sticky note so he wouldn't misplace it. And he ended up calling me literally only like a day or two later and offered me an amount of booth rent that was like just really doable for me at the time. And I just felt really, really grateful. And as I worked with him, he was actually getting ready to retire. And he offered me to buy his business from him. And that was when owning a barbershop kind of became like a question I wanted to explore than just shutting it down. So I looked into it and like actually fleshed out the whole business of how everything would be, how much everything would cost, what my income, like the cash flow of everything, how everything would work.
How long did that take you to do that?
That process, probably about 2 months.
2 months? Okay.
And it was a long process. It was very tedious. Like every single thing, because I would have to renovate the building that I was going to take over. It was a very detailed process, and when I got to the end of it and the numbers just didn't make sense, I just sat there and just kicked myself of like, what was all of this for then, you know? And I remember at the time my dad was very encouraging for me to have my business at that location. He continued to say, and other people in my life, as I would talk to them about it, getting advice from them, they're like, you just got to see this as an investment. You just have to see this as an investment. You have to see the bigger picture. You have to see the bigger picture. And finally, I was just like, listen, these are the numbers. This is what this is all saying. This doesn't make sense. I don't feel like I'm crazy for saying this doesn't make sense. And finally, when they just listen to me, they're like, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. So now I'm like, well, what do I do now? What do I do now? Because I just did all that for what?
Right.
And I was actually it really helped a lot that my dad was like, because now you just do that with a different building. You just put your business in a different building. And now that you know how to do it, it'll be even easier and even quicker next time.
True.
And I literally I finished up work one night and I just started driving around looking for other buildings if they had any signs in the windows. And I saw this one because it's literally just up the street from where I was working.
Yeah.
And I just called the number in the window thinking at the very least it would go to voicemail and I could leave a voicemail and he could call me in the morning. He ended up answering and we had a great conversation and set up a time for me to come and view this space. And as soon as I walked in this building, it sounds kind of kooky. I just like, this is my barbershop. I just knew it. I'm very grateful for that process, but it was very difficult. It was very challenging. And at times I was like, maybe that feeling that I got was misplaced. But it ended up working out and I'm very grateful.
That's super awesome. Okay, that's awesome that you made it here.
Thanks.
And it's so awesome. Like, I love coming in her barbershop. So thank you for having me today. Now that you own a business and are running it, what are some of the personality traits and passions that you feel like align with doing that?
I've always been a very organized person.
Okay.
I feel like in order to operate a successful functioning business, that's very essential. I do feel like that is also a trait that you can build. I think there's a lot of things that this might just be advice for just like life in general, actually.
Perfect.
You're so much more capable than you give yourself credit for. And if there is a way that you think, feel, or believe, that was born and that was created and that rut was etched in, and that can also be erased over time and build a new way of thinking, believing, or doing. And you have that power if you're honest enough and self-disciplined enough to create whatever way of thinking and being that you want.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that skill and you want to be an entrepreneur, you're like, oh, I'm the most unorganized person. That's okay. Become organized. And you want to know how you do that? You have to hold yourself accountable to that and be self-disciplined enough and honest enough with yourself when you're not being, to continue to do those things.
Could I ask you a more vulnerable question?
Yeah.
What experience taught you discipline or accountability?
I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's something that you have to work at every single day. So
like staying consistent and like trying to be, maybe you aren't disciplined at first, but you're like, I want to become disciplined, and just trying it out.
Yep. So organization's a big one. I also have OCD. So that's like part of why I am as like organized as I am and yada yada. OCD used to be something that I would get teased about, like in my growing up, and something that like I thought people were just being rude to me about when they would say that to me. And something that I didn't want to have, because at that time in the world, it's like if you had like a disorder, you're like weirdo.
Mm-hmm.
But I got diagnosed with it in my early 20s as well. And at first it was a really hard pill to swallow. And at first I hated it about myself. And because I was so focused on having it and all the things I hated about it, it actually just amplified it in a negative way. Mm. But because it is a part of how my brain functions, and the more that I've learned about it, it's like, I encourage people to, if they have been diagnosed with some sort of mental disorder, to understand about it, then run away from it. And also because it helps you control it. That might be controversial, that maybe some people think that if you have some sort of mental disorder that you can't control it. But I'm under the belief that if the Creator gave me my body or gave me my brain, that I also have the power to utilize it in my benefit as much as it can be utilized in my detriment. So I've worked really hard also in the self-discipline like facet of just like life things and like how I want to become, but that's also played a lot into like my OCD, because like a lot of my OCD has like been detrimental to me, and it's like how can I one, quell this to not freak me out, because that's what OCD is it's kind of like these obsessions that you get that like are meant to like freak you out, and then you do these compulsions thinking that if you do the compulsions then you're gonna make that bad thing not happen, or this good thing that you want to have happen, like somehow you're in control of that, but you're not. Anyways, but that also has what's been helping me like harness and be the shepherd over my OCD instead of it being over me. That's
amazing too. I mean, I like look at what you built, and it doesn't come by making perfect decision. Okay, we don't know. There we go. We don't know how much we lost, but Sarah was actually just talking about how you take every opportunity as a way to learn from life.
Yeah.
So we're gonna learn from this moment. One thing you were mentioning about how your business and the things you learn in your business directly translate into your life, and I'd say that's a big benefit. Obviously, when people are looking at careers, they want to say like, how is this going to benefit my life and bring value? So what are some other things about entrepreneurship, starting your own business, that like create value for your life and make it very worth it?
I feel like I'm a person who wants to be challenged, and I want to grow. I want to push myself. I don't want to ever be comfortable. I don't want to ever not be learning. I feel like the biggest thing for me is it pushes me every day, and I want to be pushed every day.
So you'd say, like, for those who are watching who like are hungry to be pushed, this is something that definitely will push them and help them. Okay.
And there are times when it pushes you and you might hate it, but embrace that.
Okay, I love that. Okay, I was thinking one last thing.
I also think for business, real quick side note, if you are wanting to be an entrepreneur, you are wanting to be a business owner, highly, highly recommend to become the owner of a business or the owner in an industry that you are already aware of in some level or some capacity you're already operating within. Like I was already a barber, so I feel like that's what helped make me be such a good barbershop owner. And I also feel like that's one of the things I'm so proud of about owning my shop is because at the end of the day, these guys that work with me, I don't say that they work for me because they're independent contractors. They work alongside of me. These barbers that work with me, they know that I'm a barber too. And I run my business with them in mind because I'm also them at the end of the day. It's like I had the mind of a barber going into the barber shop.